A man stands at his front door with a set of car keys in his hand. The car is new, 3 weeks old. He earned this. 6 years of overtime, a promotion he fought for, a bonus that finally arrived on time. He gets in, starts the engine, feels for about 4 seconds exactly the way he thought he'd feel. Then he checks his phone. Direct debit failed. Insufficient funds. Here's what makes this story worth telling. It isn't rare. It isn't reserved for people who are bad with money. Researchers at the National Bureau of Economic Research tracked almost 2,000 professional NFI players, men who earned, on average, over $3 million each. The kind of income most of us will never see in a decade, let alone a season. 1 in 6 of them filed for bankruptcy within 12 years of leaving the league. Career length made no difference. Total earnings made no difference. The players who earned the most went broke at almost the same rate as the players who earned the least. If money alone built wealth, this shouldn't be possible. So the honest question isn't how much someone earns. It's this. Once the money arrives, what decides where it goes? Because here's the part almost nobody talks about. Your spending doesn't start the moment you open your wallet. It starts years earlier, in a pattern that was carved long before you had any money to spend at all. Today, we're going to look at that pattern, not the moment you buy something. The channel underneath it that decided you would. Most of us grow up believing something simple. Earn more, and the money problem solves itself. It's a comfortable belief. It puts the responsibility somewhere far away, on your salary, your job title, your next raise, and leaves the way you actually think about money completely unexamined. It's also, provably, incomplete. The NFL players in that study didn't lack money, they lacked something else. And whatever that something else is, it clearly isn't fixed by adding zeros to a paycheck. Picture a river carving through stone. Every drop of water that falls on that landscape doesn't choose its own path. It follows a channel that was cut long before it arrived, grooves worn into the rock by every drop that came before it. Rain doesn't decide where a river goes. The riverbed does. Your money works the same way. Every purchase, every yes, every not now, runs downhill into a channel that was carved long before you earned your first paycheck. By what you watched your parents do with money, by what your friends consider normal, by 100 small moments you don't consciously remember. You can pour more water into that channel, a bigger raise, a better job. But if the channel itself was never reshaped, the water finds the exact same route it always has. Faster maybe, but the same direction. That's the lie in Earn More, and the problem solves itself. It treats the water as the problem, when the actual shape of the ground was decided somewhere else entirely. So where was it decided? And more importantly, who benefits from you never asking that question? In 1990, researchers at Cornell handed half a group of students a coffee mug. The other half got nothing. Then they ran a market. Mug owners could sell. Non-owners could buy. Economic theory says the price should land somewhere in the middle. The mug is the mug. Ownership shouldn't change what it's worth. It did anyway. Owners wanted roughly twice what buyers were willing to pay for the exact same object. Kahneman, Netsch, and Thaler called it the endowment effect. The moment something feels like it's yours, your brain quietly inflates what it's worth. That's a lab experiment with a mug, but the same wiring runs your credit card. A man scrolls his phone for 11 minutes before bed. He isn't looking for anything, but an ad shows him a jacket styled on someone who looks like the person he wants to be seen as. He doesn't buy the jacket because he's cold. He buys it because, for a few seconds, it already feels like his. The endowment effect doesn't need you to own the object, just to picture yourself owning it. Nothing about this is an accident. Every price tag ending in .99, every only 2 left in stock, every influencer wearing a product before the ad even says so. Someone studied exactly which groove in your riverbed to widen and built a business around widening it. That's the answer to who benefits. Retailers benefit. Advertisers benefit. Platforms whose entire revenue model depends on you scrolling 4 more minutes benefit. Every one of them is paid, directly, by how deep they can carve that particular channel. You were never taught to notice the groove. You were only ever shown the water. A woman sits at her kitchen table with 2 browser tabs open. One is a savings account paying almost nothing, but it's guaranteed. The other is an index fund, slower to promise anything, capable of losing value in a bad year, historically capable of doubling her money over a decade. she closes the second tab. Psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky spent years studying exactly this moment. Their finding, now one of the most replicated in behavioral economics: a loss feels roughly twice as painful as an equivalent gain feels good. Losing 10,000 rupees doesn't just cancel out the pleasure of gaining 10,000. It hurts almost twice as much. That single asymmetry is a groove cut deep into almost everyone's riverbed. It doesn't just shape investing. It shapes the job you don't leave, the conversation you postpone, the skill you never start learning because starting means admitting for a while that you're bad at it. Doing nothing feels like standing still. It isn't. The water is still moving. It's just moving down the same channel it always has, toward the same place it's always gone. The people who build wealth aren't the ones who stopped feeling that fear. They're the ones who learned to ask a second question right after it. Not only what could I lose, but what does staying exactly here already cost me? Because there's one loss that fear never warns you about. You can lose money and, eventually, make more of it. Time only spends once. Two graduates start the same job on the same Monday. Same salary, printed on the same offer letter, same city, same commute, most mornings, on the same crowded train. One sets up an automatic transfer the week she gets paid. 4,000 rupees gone before she sees it into an account she rarely opens. The other means to start saving, just not this month. This month there's a deposit on an apartment, then a friend's wedding, then a laptop that's finally, definitely going to fail any day now. Nothing dramatic happens to either of them. No crisis, no windfall. 8 years pass roughly the same way every year passed before it. This is the part almost no one sees coming because it doesn't look like anything. Researchers in behavioral economics call it the default effect. We don't choose most of our financial behavior. We inherit whatever became automatic, and automatic feels like a decision even when it never was one. The first graduate's water never had to fight the channel. She dug it once, deliberately, in her first month of earning, and gravity did the rest for 8 years. The second graduate's water is still waiting for a better moment to change direction. It will keep waiting because later isn't a plan. It's the channel doing exactly what channels do, carrying the water toward wherever it's always gone. Wealth is rarely one dramatic decision. It's usually one very ordinary decision, repeated so many times it stops feeling like a decision at all. Two men lose the same amount of money on the same kind of mistake. A bad investment, poorly researched, gone in 4 months. The first tells himself something specific. I'm just not built for this. Some people understand money. I clearly don't. The second tells himself something almost identical in size, completely different in shape. That was a bad decision. I know more now than I did 4 months ago. Same loss, same amount of money, two entirely different rivers from here. Author James Clear has written about how identity, more than motivation, is what sustains behavior over time. We don't keep doing what we're told to do. We keep doing what matches the story we already believe about who we are. The first man's story turns every future mistake into proof he was right about himself. He'll notice every loss and explain away every gain, because that's what confirms the groove he's already standing in. The second man's story turns the same category of event into information. A bad decision teaches something. A bad identity doesn't. It just keeps you standing exactly where you already were. This is the deepest groove in the entire riverbed, because it isn't about spending or fear or status. It's about which of those two men you already believe yourself to be, long before the next mistake even happens. And that belief was carved the same way every other groove in this video was carved, quietly, repeatedly, by people and moments you mostly don't remember choosing. Go back to the man in the driveway. New car, 4 seconds of feeling like he'd made it, a failed direct debit before the engine even cooled. He didn't make one catastrophic decision that morning. Almost no one does. He made 100 quiet ones over several years that ran down a channel carved by an industry built to widen it, a brain wired to fear the wrong losses, and a story about himself he never once stopped to question. None of that makes him careless. It makes him human, following the same physics as every other river on Earth. Water doesn't choose its path through willpower. It follows whatever channel already exists. Here's what separates the players who kept their $3 million from the 1 in 6 who didn't. And it isn't luck, and it isn't intelligence. It's whether, at some point, they stopped and looked at the shape of the ground instead of just watching where the water went. That's available to you in a way it wasn't a generation ago. You can see the groove retailers carved for you, now you know what it's built from. You can see the fear wired into loss aversion, now you know it's measuring the wrong risk. You can see which identity you've been standing in every time money goes wrong. Now you know it was a choice, even when it didn't feel like one. None of this changes with one decision. Rivers don't change course in a single afternoon. But every channel on Earth, no matter how deep, was cut by something that started as a trickle. The next time money moves through your hands, a raise, a bonus, a small extra amount you weren't expecting, there's one honest question worth asking before it disappears down the same route it always has. Is this going where the old channel sends it? Or where you actually meant to send it? Because the water was never the real story here. It was always the ground underneath it.